Hello, everyone. My name is Dawn Evans. I'm the Access Text Network Coordinator. Welcome to our last session in this EPUB webinar series. Today, we're going to learn about adding accessibility enhancements to EPUB files. First, some quick housekeeping items. Live captioning is available by clicking on the CC icon at the bottom of the Zoom screen. You can also enlarge the captioning box by clicking on the upward arrow in its top right corner. This will be a 1-hour session, including 20 minutes at the end for questions. If at any point you have trouble seeing the bottom of the screen, simply adjust your view options in the top center of the Zoom window. To ask questions or make comments, please use the Q&A pane. You'll find the Q&A icon at the bottom of your Zoom window. Feel free to submit your questions at any time. We have set up an EPUB resources page at bit.ly, that's bit.ly/EPUB-ATN. As soon as we have the webinar recording, we post it on this page along with the PowerPoint decks. Now I would like to turn it over to our speakers for today, Svea Siegman, Joseph P., Charles Lapierre, and Richard Orm. Thanks so much, Svea, Joseph, Charles, and Richard, for bringing us this presentation. And if you would, take a moment to introduce yourselves. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Svea Siegman. I work for Wiley in the Architecture Standards Group. I also work on standards with the World Wide Web Consortium and several other organizations.
Hi, I'm Joseph Polizotto. I'm the Alternate Media Supervisor at UC Berkeley.
Hello, I'm Charles Lapierre. I'm the technical lead of the Diagram Center and Born Accessible at Benetech, and involved in a number of W3C standards groups as well.
And my name's Richard Orm. I'm from the DAISY Consortium, and you may guess I'm from the UK. So as you will have seen from the overview advertising the webinar, the topic for today takes us to another level. We'll be getting into the guts of EPUB files and making adjustments to them. And it's going to get pretty technical, but remember, you will be able to review the webinar afterwards. And we're going to provide a companion step-by-step guide that walks you through getting started and making your first edit. So what's our agenda for today? Well, Svea will take us through the components of an EPUB file and some HTML basics. I will then introduce a couple of tools we'll be using, Ace by Daisy and Sigil. Then Charles will show us how he can identify and then fix color contrast and issues with a table. And then Joseph will identify and resolve problems with alt text and metadata. And finally, I'll tell you about that companion resource to guide you through getting started and making your first edits on a sample EPUB that we've provided for you. And then, of course, at the end, we'll be leaving time for questions and comments. So I'll turn over now to Svea, who will explain what makes an EPUB.
Thank you, Richard. Okay, so let's talk about what is EPUB. It's important to be aware that there are a few different versions of the EPUB specification. The current recommendation is to use EPUB 3.2, a version that was just released a few weeks ago. EPUB 3 is a package of compressed or zipped files which use standards from the Open Web Platform. It's the current standard for digital publications, and all major digital reading systems on the market can parse an EPUB file. There are many components of an EPUB file, and there are 5 major components, and I'll go into details about exactly what is in each of these components in the next slides. There's the MIME type, the meta-inf file, the open ebook publication structure, which sometimes is called the OPS, or the Open Publication Structure, and within the OEBPS is the OPF, the navigation document, and the content documents. Moving along on the next slide, let's talk about the MIME type. It's a pretty big word for something that is made up of just one line of code. It's a simple text file with one line. It should not be in a folder. It should just be a standalone file. And it is the item that announces to the operating system and the e-reader that this is an EPUB. Many other formats have MIME types. Most formats have MIME types. And this file must be included in every EPUB file. And the only information that's included in this file is the last line of code there, application/EPUB plus zip. It's just saying this is a specialized type of zip. The next piece of information that we have is the meta-inf file. It contains the thing that's called container.xml, which defines the path to the package document. It's really just saying this is a container that has a lot of files in it. You rarely touch either the MIME type or the meta-inf file when creating EPUB files. Your tooling should do the work for you. Moving on, we get to the more interesting pieces of the EPUB file. The OPF, or package file, is an XML document that contains 3 main elements. The metadata, which is the information about the ebook, which includes accessibility metadata. There are very few metadata fields that are actually required, but there are many, many metadata fields that are optional. Title, ISBN, publisher, ISBN is a type of identifier, date, many, many other fields, and I think later we'll talk more about the accessibility metadata. The manifest lists all of the components of the EPUB in any order. That means every image, every HTML file, every SVG file, every CSS file, every single piece of the EPUB is listed here. The spine is a comprehensive list of all the files used in the EPUB in sequence. It differs from the manifest in that you would simply list the HTML file that points to the images and not the images themselves. So if chapter 1 contains 42 images, you just list chapter 1 and not all of the images, and the spine is in the sequence that you want your users to access the book. Moving on to the next slide, we get to the content documents, which is basically what it is that users will look at. The navigation document is required. It's a very specialized XHTML file used to generate the device table of contents. It's very simple to create. The body of the navigation document has just one required nav element, that's nav using the HTML nav element, and it is simply an ordered list of items that would display in your table of contents. There are many optional elements, including landmarks and a page list. All of them are structured as an ordered list. The page list is a very nice attribute of EPUB. It enables page mapping, just like print books. So if an instructor, for example, says turn to page 27 to students using print books and students using ebooks, all students are able to turn to page 27 even though there is no physical page in the ebook. And the rest of the content documents are everything else in the book: HTML, CSS, images, SVG, video, whatever else you might put into that ebook. And then let's talk for a moment about what HTML is. Technically, EPUB requires XHTML. It's not that different from HTML. HTML is hypertext markup language. XHTML is extensible hypertext markup language. HTML is the language of the web. It's also used for EPUB. Something to keep in mind from an accessibility perspective, HTML elements are semantic. They're not just containers. We often think that the tags we use in HTML, such as a paragraph tag, is just something that holds the text that we're using. But it's important to be aware that all HTML elements convey semantic meaning to assistive technology, meaning that somebody who is using assistive technology or another tool will understand that this piece of content is, let's say, a section as opposed to just a blob. In today's discussion, we'll focus on images as a tag, table headings, and table rows. Another important aspect is CSS, or cascading style sheets, which are a file, or they can actually be embedded in the HTML, used for presentation and layout of a web page or an EPUB page. They're also used in apps and other things that are based on web technologies. Here's a very straightforward and simple example of a CSS declaration that adjusts the style of a chapter heading. H1, which is the way that you declare a heading. Text align left. That means that the alignment of the text in the H1 is to the left as opposed to center, justified, or right. The color is declared as red, and the font size is large. There are many ways to talk about font sizes. Large, medium, and small is just one of the ways. You can also do it using ems, pixels, point size, many other ways. And that, in a very short nutshell, small nutshell, I should say, is how CSS interacts with EPUB.
Thanks, Sophia. So these are the internals of an EPUB. It's good to have this in the back of our minds. Fortunately, there are tools that help us when working with EPUBs, and they do a lot of the heavy lifting for us. And we're going to use a couple in this webinar. The first is ACE by Daisy. Now, this tool will help you check an EPUB for accessibility issues. You can download it and use it standalone or as part of an editing tool. In a moment, Charles and Joseph will use it in both of these different ways. The second tool we need to use will be to edit the EPUB contents. There are several options available to you, and we've chosen to use Sigil today. Like other options, it's free to download and use, and Charles will use it on the Mac, and Joseph will use it on Windows. So now, let's turn to Joseph and Charles to tell us about EPUB remediation.
Great. Thanks, Richard. Nowadays, there are more and more EPUBs circulating in higher ed than before. And as the EPUB format becomes the preferred format used in the higher ed publishing industry, it's important that disability service offices and other college and university staff charged with accessibility compliance know how to remediate inaccessible EPUBs and add accessibility enhancements when necessary. When you begin checking an EPUB for accessibility, we recommend that you use ACE, which can systematically detect all the areas of concern with the EPUB. Similar to other document remediation tools you may be familiar with, like for checking the accessibility of a PDF, ACE will provide a report where you can easily look up information that is relevant to the type of error you may have encountered in the EPUB. Since an accessible EPUB is built upon the proper use of HTML and CSS, learning how to remediate an EPUB could appear as a daunting prospect if you're not familiar with these technologies, but you really don't have to be an expert in HTML to make some of the common adjustments that you'll need to make in your EPUB, as we're about to show. As a matter of fact, some of the issues that you're used to looking for in a PDF for accessibility or other types of formats are the same as what you're going to be looking for in your EPUB. For instance, sufficient color contrast, table headers, alternate text for images, and metadata. While you may need to make additional enhancements to your EPUB, this list represents a significant chunk of the types of accessibility issues you'll probably need to address. So now I'm going to turn it over to Charles, where he's going to begin talking about some of the techniques that you can use to remediate these features.
Having good color contrast between the text color and its background color helps all students read the text easier, but is crucial for students with low vision. WCAG AA or WCAG AA requires a contrast ratio of 3:1 for large fonts, and for non-bolded fonts below 18 point, you must have a color contrast ratio of 4.5:1. For WCAG AAA, this becomes 7:1. ACE will actually report these color contrast issues and show you where you can find them within the EPUB. Having semantically marked up tables helps screen reader users navigate and better comprehend what the table is trying to represent. Tables should not be made into an inaccessible image, even if there's alt text, since the user can't actually navigate and see each cell and row in the table. with just an image with alt text. If you encounter a table that is an image, ideally you could create an HTML table under the image or replace the image with an HTML table instead. Tables will be, we will need to manually inspect them to determine if the first row and or first column of the table should be semantically marked up as a heading row or column. Now let's watch this video to see how easy it is to remediate both color contrast issues and tables within an EPUB. EPUB remediation of color contrast and table issues. In this demonstration, I will be remediating any color contrast issues as well as addressing any accessibility issues with tables I find within an EPUB. The easiest way to check to see if there are any color contrast issues with an EPUB is to run the EPUB through ACE, the accessibility checker for EPUB by Daisy. ACE will report all color contrast issues present and where they were found within the EPUB. I will now load the EPUB into ACE and have it analyzed for all accessibility issues. Since I am only interested in color contrast issues, I will switch to the Violations tab and filter by the rule Color Contrast. Right away, I see a heading level 1 with a color contrast ratio of only 1.65. ACE reports that since this is a large 18-point font, that the minimum color contrast ratio should be at least 3 to 1. The background color is reported as #FFFFF, which is the computer code for the color white, and the foreground color, aka text color, of FFB6C1, which I admit I have no idea what the color is, but will be easy enough to find out using the EPUB editor Sigil. I see another heading 1 with the same issue, which I can ignore since fixing one of these should fix all of them. I will now switch to Sigil to search for the issue. The first thing I do is bring up the nav.xhtml file, which ACE reports as the location for the first H1 contrast issue. Looking at this file in the preview window, we can clearly see the color of the table of contents is a pink color. When I look at the underlying code, which makes up this page, I see just a standard heading level 1 with no color declared. So this then leads me to look at if there are any styles sheets being used to render this page. And sure enough, we find that stylesheet1.css is being used. I will now bring up this file and search for #FFB6C1. Searching for this color did not find anything. So instead, we will look for stylistic changes to any H1 element. Here you see H1 with the color of light pink. Now that makes sense why we weren't able to find FFB6C1, which ACE reported, because the designer decided to use a common name for this color instead. Let's change this to dark blue. Now if I switch back to the nav.xhtml file and look at the preview, the table of contents is no longer pink and is dark blue. And I suspect if I switch to chapter 1 and look at its preview, yes, the introduction to statistics is also dark blue. I will save this EPUB and rerun ACE. Rerunning ACE reduced the number of color contrast issues by 2. Now the first issue we see is heading 3 with a contrast of 2.29, which must be increased to 4.5 since the font isn't as large. This violation occurs in chapter 1, and the text of this H3 is where you're going. Looking at this file in Sigil, we see that the class FancyHeader, which is another way you can assign specific styles to elements using CSS. Let's actually take a look to see what this looks like in the chapter. Okay, here we are, where you're going, and it's this reddish text color with a purple background. Okay, here it is. Let's leave the background for now and change the text color to black. That should get us the 4.5 contrast ratio we require. Looking at the chapter in the preview, we now see this change live, which is a lot more readable. Saving this file and rerunning ACE, we see that there are no longer any color contrast issues found. All right. The next area which needs manual inspection is tables. ACE cannot automatically detect if a table needs a heading row or column. When a table is semantically marked up correctly, a screen reader user exploring the table will hear a heading announced first and then the contents of the cell so that they understand what is being presented. For example, you might hear the following if the table is not marked up correctly as you move from cell to cell in the table.
10, 90, 52, 85.
Versus when headings are marked correctly, you would hear
Min temperature, 10, max temperature, 90, average temperature 52, average rainfall inches, 8, average snowfall inches, 5.
Let's take a look in this chapter to see how a couple of these tables are marked up. In Sigil, if I bring up the search tool and search for the following, left angle, bracket, table, here we find our first table. Oh my. So the first table here has a very concerning issue. The table header, which is marked here, really isn't a header at all. It is the first row of actual data. What would happen here is the screen reader would keep repeating Accord Sedan and 21,680 as they move around the table, which would be really confusing. Here is how that would sound.
Accord Sedan, Civic Sedan, $21,680, $18,165.
So we can do one of two things here. We can create a meaningful heading row or remove the heading altogether and just move this into the body. Only for very simple tables does it make sense not to have a heading row. I myself would rather see a heading row, so in this case, let's make a heading row model and suggested retail price for the two columns, and move Accord Sedan and 21,680 down into the first row of data in the body of the table. If you're not comfortable doing that, or you don't know what the heading column name should be, then it's best not to include the heading at all and simply move the data into the body of the table. If we switch to presentation view, we will notice that the first row of data is bolded, which can be an indication of a heading row. First, I will copy this to the clipboard and place it into the body of the text and change the TH, table heading information, back to a table data row. And then same with this, change this here. And let's say I forgot to change that to a TD. When I tried to switch to the presentation mode, you get an error box. And so we're going to fix this manually, and therefore this would be change it to a TD. Okay, now up here in the table header, I'm going to change this from Accord Sedan to model, and this 21,680 I'm going to switch to suggested retail price. Now we'll preview it, and now you can see the bolding of the model and the suggested retail price as is looking like a header. Now let's hear this with the screen reader.
Civic Hybrid, suggested retail price, $24,200.
Let's continue searching for the next table. Here we find our table, and has a table header, T head, and looks like the column labels are meaningful, city and population, but there is some semantic markup missing. We need to mark this as a TH to indicate table header, and the scope of this is for a column. If we quickly switch to the presentation view, we'll notice that the first row, which should be the heading row, is not bolded like in our previous table. However, this could get overridden using CSS. Switching back to the code view, we notice that there's also an associated class with this table row, which could affect the visual presentation of the table. So even though it may or may not look like a heading, doesn't mean it is semantically marked up as one. To do this, we need to replace the two table datas, TDs, with table heading scope equals column. So this becomes a table header and scope equals column. Don't forget to mark this as the ending table header, and we'll do the same for population. Scope, and go to the end and change this to a table header. Now this table is marked up correctly, and in the presentation view, we see that the first row is now bolded like it should be to indicate a heading row. But again, this may not always happen when there are CSS stylings applied.
Great. As you are used to when remediating other formats, alternate text for images is an essential requirement for your EPUB to be accessible. Alternate text for an image is just a short textual description that explains the content and function of an image, and this description can be accessed by readers with visual impairments who use assistive technology such as a screen reader. In an EPUB, alternate text is added after the alt attribute, which is nested inside the image HTML element, which is img within angle brackets. All the images in your EPUB must have the alt attribute, or else they will receive an error message in ACE. As you are accustomed to do when writing alternate text for other formats, remember to keep your descriptions brief and not to repeat any information that is already contained in the surrounding text. If an image is purely for decoration purposes or does not convey any new information to the reader, the image should have a null attribute, which consists of the alt attribute equals 2 double quotes. When a null alt appears in the EPUB, a screen reader will not speak any information about the image. When there's a complex image in the EPUB, such as a chart, a long description of the image would be better than alternate text. And if you're interested in a technique for how to add long descriptions to your EPUB, we would recommend that you look for a conference session at Accessing Higher Ground, where we're going to be discussing, some of us will be discussing these accessibility techniques in more detail. Just as it is important to add a document title to, say, a PDF, an EPUB's metadata contain essential information about the work that readers will want to know. For example, complete and accurate metadata should be included in the EPUB regarding the name of the author, the title of the work, the language, the date of publication, etc. This way, readers can correctly identify the work from another. The language metadata specifically declares the primary language used in the work. And this is important for users of assistive technology, such as screen reader users, because the language metadata will determine the primary language that the AT will use when loading a speech synthesizer to read the content in the EPUB. With the EPUB standard, there are also some metadata items that specifically address the accessibility of your EPUB. These metadata items help you discover the EPUB's accessibility features that are included in your EPUB. And they must be present in the EPUB in order to achieve a passing score with the ACE tool. For example, if you have added alternate text for all of the images in your EPUB, you can communicate this information by adding metadata to the OPF file or package file, which is part of the EPUB where the metadata are located. In the metadata section of the OPF file, you would simply add the accessibility feature metadata property and type alternate text for the value of that property. We'll now be showing a short video in which we demonstrate how easy it is to add accessibility enhancements to the images and metadata in your EPUB. And we also wanted to point out that in this demonstration, we will be using Sigil and ACE on the PC, where we have loaded ACE directly into Sigil as a plugin.
EPUB remediation of alternate text and metadata issues. In this video, we will be demonstrating how to remediate alternate text issues, as well as addressing any accessibility issues with an EPUB's metadata that we find within an EPUB. The first step in our EPUB remediation work will be to run ACE, the accessibility checker for EPUB by Daisy. In this demonstration, we will be running the ACE plugin for Sigil, which is a popular EPUB editing program. When we run the ACE plugin for Sigil, ACE's accessibility report appears at the bottom of the interface. By clicking on an error, we can move directly to the location where the error occurs in the EPUB. The ACE report for this EPUB tells us that there are some errors related to the metadata and alternate text. We will first address the errors that pertain to the alternate text. In this EPUB, we notice that there are images that are missing the alt attribute and that one of the images has alternate text that duplicates existing text. The first ACE error message is for an image that does not have an alt attribute. Using Sigil's book view, we can examine whether the text surrounding this image already provides useful information about the image. This observation can help us determine what the best alternate text will be for the image. We notice that this image does not provide important content in the EPUB, so it will not be necessary to add alternate text for this image. Since it is a decorative image, we will return to the code view and simply add the null alt text, where we add the alt attribute and a value of 2 quotation marks. The next ACE error message is for another image that does not have an alt attribute. With this image, we notice that the surrounding text provides some information about the image, so we will just provide a simple alternate text that labels the image that is already referenced in the surrounding text. Now that we have corrected these errors, we will run ACE again to check that the alternate text errors have been eliminated from the EPUB. We will now look at what the ACE accessibility report tells us about problems with the metadata in this EPUB. One of the problems is that the metadata is missing a title. To correct missing metadata items such as the title, language, or author, you can use Sigil's metadata editor or press F8 on your keyboard. Once we add the missing metadata in the metadata editor, the metadata will be added to the OPF or package file. The other metadata error message occurs because one of the specific accessibility metadata properties is missing. In this case, the missing property is the access mode sufficient property, which communicates whether readers can use a single type of information in the EPUB, such as the visual information or the textual information, to perceive all of the content in the EPUB. Since we have made sure to add alternate text for all of the images as well as long descriptions of the complex images, readers who are blind and are using a screen reader will be able to access all of the information in this EPUB using the textual information alone. Therefore, we can declare that the textual mode is sufficient for readers to perceive all of the content in this EPUB. To make edits to the accessibility metadata in the EPUB, we will go to the OPF document and add the missing metadata information. Since we have made some accessibility enhancements to this EPUB, we will also add a few more lines of metadata that specify the types of enhancements that we have added, such as alternate text and long descriptions. To do this, we will use the accessibility feature metadata property. Finally, we will run ACE one more time to see that we have corrected the metadata errors in this EPUB.
So Charles has shown us how he could identify and then fix color contrast and issues with a table. And Joseph identified and resolved problems with alt text and metadata. But that's a lot to take in, and you might be thinking, how can you put this into practice? So we suggest that you install the tools that we've used in this webinar, ACE and Sigil, and we've provided, such as adding or editing the alt text. So to help you, we've provided a step-by-step guide for you to get started, which is on the Access Text Network wiki. This talks through downloading and installing the software, configuring the plugin, and getting going with making those changes to the alt text. So what are the key points we'll hope you'll take away from this session? So whilst EPUB has accessibility features built in, we haven't, for example, covered tagging the reading order because it's just not required in an EPUB. There are still improvements that you can make to a suboptimal file. The tools to edit an EPUB are free, and there's choice there. We've pitched Sigil, and ACE is available to help with identifying issues. And like anything new, it can be pretty daunting until you get started. So we've provided you with that step-to-step guide, and we hope that you find it useful and you get stuck in.
All right. Thank you so much. That was very, very informative. We do have a handful of questions and comments. First, let's start with this one. When we find issues such as the H1 being light pink, can we make that change even though there are copyrights in place?
I would, yes, absolutely. This is you're fixing some accessibility issues, and it's under fair use to, you are making modifications to for your students, so that's not a problem.
Thank you. And then there's a few comments about sort of the overwhelming nature of looking at this coding and markup. So for example, one says, I feel like I need more of a background in coding for this webinar. Another agrees and says, is there a code reference cheat sheet perhaps?
So this is Svea. The overview that I gave of HTML was so very basic. It didn't really talk about most of HTML. There are a few courses. There's an EPUB overview available on lynda.com, offered by Laura Brady, who some of you might know. She's done a few courses on EPUB accessibility. She speaks at many conferences. That offers a really great overview of how EPUB works. There are many, many online tutorials about HTML. It's not nearly as scary as it might seem. I would recommend what Richard suggested, just diving in and exploring a little bit. I recommend taking a look at MDN, the Mozilla Developer Network. It's an excellent resource for exploring anything the web has to offer in terms of standards. They work very closely with the people who actually write the specifications. And coming soon, I don't have the exact timeline right now, we will be sharing EPUB best practices on MDN. I'm working on that with some of my colleagues in the W3C. So hopefully that will help guide you further.
This is Richard. I've never studied HTML. I've never taken a course. What you're not doing is starting with an empty sheet and starting to write HTML when you're modifying an EPUB. You're looking actually at existing HTML. So it's possible to look around the lines above and below to see examples of how things have been done. And that's how I've done it, to be honest. I've looked at lines that are okay and then copied that technique, but put in the right information. I don't think one needs to feel that you need to do a whole course on HTML, because there are some quite specific things. We've covered them, some of them in this webinar. And so this kind of cheat sheet idea, I think, is a good one, where we can actually document some of these practices around fixing heading levels, image descriptions, table layout, and maybe contrast. These would be good and would mean that you can focus on those particular areas. But using that kind of getting started guide that we reference that's on the wiki, without doing any further courses or looking at further stuff, it talks you through so you can make your first edit in an HTML, in an EPUB, save it and improve that EPUB. That should build a lot of confidence, and you'll see just how you can do this.
And this, Charles, I would just add that there's also a great resource from the BISG for the accessible guide to publishing that just got a facelift there this year, earlier this year. So if you're looking for that, it used to be called the Quick Start Guide to Accessible Publishing, but yeah, that's a great resource as well.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, and this is Joseph. Just one more thing to add. There's another really good way to learn about proper formatting from EPUB, and that is take examples of EPUBs that are already fully accessible and just look at those code samples, copy them, and mark down where you may not be adding that feature. So the BISG website that Charles mentioned, and also the DAISY Consortium, has a lot of EPUBs as part of the sample book suite that you could look at.
Yep.
Thank you. All right. Are publishers of EPUB files being trained on using these tools in their design process so that those of us in disability services do not need to remediate?
Yes, we are helping publishers, the Diagram Center and our Global Certified Accessible Initiative at Benetech. We're working with publishers to help them build their books born accessible. I know Sophia is doing some amazing work at Wiley on improving their accessibility for their books. So yes, we're working on it, definitely.
And the objective is that you shouldn't have to make these remediations. More rare, genuinely, and we see files not just from the examples, Charles, that you gave, but from publishers in the UK as well. But I would say that, wouldn't I? But there may be cases where you need to do some remediation. For example, EPUB is just kind of getting to be everywhere. You may find that on your university library system, you have the option to download journal articles as EPUBs, and maybe they could do with some improvement. They don't need to be perfect. They need to meet the needs of that individual learner, perhaps. So it could be that all you're doing is adding some image descriptions or long descriptions. So again, don't feel that you have to know everything to be able to make an improvement on some EPUBs.
I definitely agree. You know, I have remediated publisher PDF files for years, and you know, when you're trying to make a PDF accessible, you have to deal with the incorrect reading order, which thankfully is not an issue in EPUB. So you really are just looking at, you know, these minor tweaks in an EPUB versus what you actually have to do to a PDF to get it fully accessible. All right, let's see. If the publishers have this knowledge, why isn't it being done on their end? And I'll take a quick stab at this. I've seen a lot of publishers starting to upload EPUBs to ATN, and I've taken a peek and I've seen some really great accessibility work in there. Anybody else want to comment?
I definitely, this is Charles again, definitely see publishers are starting to do the right thing. A lot of them are really starting to take accessibility seriously. Before it was a lot of an afterthought, and the publishers, and I thought for sure they were never going to be adding alt text and long descriptions, but I'm starting to see publishers like Macmillan Learning, Wiley, McGraw-Hill, Simon & Schuster, they're all putting in the alt text now, and they're starting to do this. So the big publishers are getting it. It's probably going to be some of the smaller publishers that are, Pearson is another one for sure doing it. Some of the smaller publishers are going to, they just don't have the resources, and to get, you know, they have to start adding in. And the biggest issue that I was seeing is definitely by far was images. we've been looking at a lot of different publishers and even conversion vendors that help the publishers make the book, and we're working with them as well. So I think they're starting to get it. I think we're at the cusp of something really big. So I'm really hopeful that a lot of these publications coming out are going to be truly born accessible. The issue is the backlists, and remediating those is going to be where the publishers are going to find the hardest on those backlists.
And I'll just give my perspective as a publisher. Some of us have been campaigning to do this for years and years and years. Having a tool like ACE available to help us determine what the issues are has been very helpful to us. And ACE is pretty new. The accessibility metadata specification is also relatively new. So we didn't actually have the tools in our hands that assisted us. So that's been a catalyst for change.
Good point. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I would just add, as a representative of a disability service office, I would say that it would certainly help us move towards us seeing more publishers creating born accessible EPUBs if many of us in disability service offices knew what accessible EPUBs look like, and we can talk about them when we're negotiating, if we're negotiating with any publishers or any vendors that are releasing their files to us in an accessible manner. So I would just encourage you to share this information with members at your college or university where you may be looking at VPATs and maybe receiving EPUBs in the future, so that you can talk about the accessibility of EPUBs.
All right, thank you. Got two similar questions. Are there key points to be aware of when using EPUB for students that have learning or physical disabilities that may be using text-to-speech, such as, for example, Kurzweil or similar? And what are recommended EPUB readers to access the accessibility features?
Sure, well, I can start with that. So when working with students with learning disabilities, one of the key areas that you ought to look at is what are some of the ways in which the student prefers to learn. Do they like to use a highlighter? Do they like to add notes? Do they like to use dictionary lookup and things like this to help them with their comprehension of the text? And there are certain reading systems, specific reading systems, that do a really good job of allowing students who read the EPUB to do those types of things. So you would want to search with your student for what their preferred platform, on their preferred platform, what is the reading system that would best help that student with those types of activities. So on the Mac, currently, there's a number of reading systems that allow you to open up EPUB. There's Books, which is the native book Mac ebook software, and that will allow you to do things like highlight, add notes, and look up words in a dictionary. For text-to-speech, some of the best options that I've seen exist on the mobile platform. So VoiceStream Reader for Mac OS and Android, or for iOS and Android, has really robust text-to-speech settings, and also Dolphin Easy Reader app on iOS and Android does.
All right. And I believe this question was directed at you, Joseph. Do you have a preferred EPUB reader?
Yeah, so right now my preferred EPUB reader depends really upon the platform that I'm using. So on the PC, I prefer to use Microsoft Edge because it's built into the operating system, and it's really easy to open up the EPUB, and many students that I'm working with are familiar with Microsoft Edge, so they're able to use it. Although Microsoft Edge has there will be some changes that will be coming with the ability for Microsoft Edge to open EPUB. So I acknowledge that this is an issue that we need to be aware of. But apart from Edge on the iOS platform, I prefer Dolphin Easy Reader because it's a free program and it allows lots of accessibility features like support for MathML and support for the page list navigation structure that Zvia was talking about earlier. And beyond that, I also am really keen on the VitalSource bookshelf application that's on multiple platforms because of its support for all the accessibility features.
Dawn, this is Richard. I might mention that the very first one of the resources that's mentioned on the wiki is a roundup of reading systems, and it talks about the different accessibility features and what our evaluators have commented. It mentions whether they're free or not and what platforms they're on. So if you pop along to the wiki and look at the resources, there's the reading systems accessibility support roundup there. You should find plenty in there to have a look at. And the great thing is that many of these apps are free.
Thank you, Joseph and Richard. Yes, if you go to the wiki page, the very first section is resources, and the link he is referring to is the very first bullet. Very useful resource right there. All right, let me get back to the questions. Is Benetech remediating before they post EPUB in the Bookshare library?
No, that would require more staff than we could afford, I think, because that we're getting like, thousands of books a month into Bookshare, and for us to do the remediation, these are really exactly from the publisher. We do a little bit of cleanup on things. We're running right now, starting a pilot project to try to detect if there's math images in some of these books, and then doing some OCR, math OCR on these images, and actually reinserting like MathML back into the books. These are some things that we're looking into, but primarily we're taking what the publishers are giving us. When the publishers don't give us these books, then we have to manually buy these books, chop them, scan them, OCR them, and then fix any issues there. But in that process, we're losing images, which is very unfortunate, and it's something that I'd like to see change. But there's a lot of issues with the order of things, trying to re-put the order back in, which is why we're trying to get these books directly from the publishers, and if they can give us highly accessible, born accessible books, just makes for everyone having a better reading experience all around.
Thank you. All right, do you find publishers are welcoming of feedback when issues are found by those of us in the field remediating their EPUBs?
Well, I can simply comment there. I haven't got enough time in the day to give the feedback that publishers really want. There are more publishers out there wanting to know whether or not their EPUBs are great than I have time for. So it's certainly something that publishers have got behind. They're putting effort into making sure their EPUBs, because the technology allows for really good accessibility, they're really enthusiastic about that. And the tools, as Sevilla said, are out there now for them to be able to evaluate those. So the short answer, sorry, that was a long answer. The short answer would be yes, they are welcoming of the feedback.
I would say the same thing. This is Charles with our Born Accessible and our GCA program, Global Certified Accessible. When publishers are asking us to look at their books and to check them for accessibility issues, we give them back a very detailed report that then we don't do the remediation. We tell them this is how you would fix your production pipeline, because we don't want to have to keep fixing their books. We want them to fix the books, but they are extremely grateful for us to show them where these issues are and how to fix it. And then we, let them fix the book, and then they send us a revised version that we then comment on if there's any existing small issues. And we're seeing the publishers are really excited about the quality that they're coming back with the second time around, a third time. It's reduced the issues tremendously, and yeah, it's a benefit on all sides once once we do that work.
I want to add something that links to that question and also the question around whether EPUBs are remediated before they go into the Bookshare catalogue. And that is that EPUBs don't have to be remediated before they get in the hands of students. They don't have to be perfect. Students have said to me when they've got EPUBs that are imperfect, it is just so much better than many other formats because of the inherent accessibility and navigability of the format. We wanted to include this webinar topic so that we can show that you can take an EPUB and continue to improve it if that's necessary. And those EPUBs could have come, as I mentioned, from a journal platform, from within your own faculty, as it were. So these options are available to you. But the big push is to ensure that what comes from the publishers is accessible in its first place, and you don't need to get into the detail of remediating in order for your students to be benefiting from EPUB right now.
Thank you. This person says that they have worked with complicated tables with multiple headers. Does EPUB work with these kinds of tables? Here we only discuss simple tables with one line of header.
So
Right.
I can take that since I'm one of the publishers who provides these. Yes, EPUB supports all sorts of complicated tables. It's just a matter of marking it up in an accessible way. We try to do that at Wiley. We also, not just from an accessibility perspective, but from a general usability perspective, have tried to work with our authors when possible to avoid this sort of complicated table. If you're reading on your phone, for example, that tends not to really be a great user experience, but sometimes it's unavoidable. The issue is going to be, of course, usability for anybody when you get into that level of complexity. And then there are some reading systems that support tables better than others. I'm not going to name names, but it comes down to screen size, it comes down to the system support, and it comes down to a number of other issues. But the EPUB specification itself supports any level of complexity in the table. It then is up to the system that you open the file on to support it, but many of the systems that were mentioned today have wonderful support for any level of complexity in a table.
Great, thank you so much. So we have reached 3 o'clock. Let me mention that many of us will be at Accessing Higher Ground in November of this year out in Westminster, Colorado. And there's going to be a pre-conference workshop on enhancing EPUB, hands-on experience that would be a really great session to attend. And there's going to be numerous general sessions during the main conference about various topics regarding EPUB. So I hope that we can see you all there. And most importantly, let me thank all of the presenters today. Thank you for taking the time to put this together. It was a really good presentation. And Richard Orm has been so wonderful for this entire webinar series. Thank you, Richard, for always being there and driving those slides and helping us get things right. Okay, everyone have a great day, and we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.